Hi, welcome back to Nahma. For those of you who are new here, Nahma is a yoga project where we create classes that are slightly slower and gentler in pace. And they have a lot of instructions so that our senior yogis and our yogis with mobility restrictions can also follow along. Today's class was a semi-request. We were asked to focus more on legs and on standing poses, so we went and turned it into a hip opening class. So I hope this class leaves you feeling really energized and just wide open through your hips and your glutes. And hopefully you'll have a bit of a meditative vibe going on as well by the end of the session. So thank you so much for joining me, and let's get right into it. Okay, we are getting right into it. We're going to start the class in a standing pose, in a wide-legged squatting position. So I'm just giving you a frontal view right now. Eventually, when we start to do the exercise together, I'm going to turn and face the chair just like you will. So you're going to need to be facing the seat of your chair, and you're going to be taking your legs wider than hip width. So they're quite wide. Because as you squat down, you're going to have to ensure that your knees are moving in the same direction as your toes. So your toes should be pointed, so they shouldn't be parallel towards one another. They should be pointing out at about a 45-degree angle. And now I'm going to give you a side view because I want you to pay attention to what's happening in your tailbone. So to take the pressure off your lower back, you're going to try and bring your pelvis into a neutral position. So naturally, when a lot of us stand, we tend to sort of stick out our bums. I want you to see if you can move your tailbone so that it's actually facing down instead of facing out. And that'll take a lot of pressure off your lower back as you go into the squat. So you can play around a couple of times, just sort of tilting back and then tilting in, just scooping in your belly so that the pelvic bowl is in a neutral place. And then you're going to come facing the seat of your chair. And we are going to go straight into it. So you're going to start bending your knees. And you're going to sit as low as you can, bringing your shoulders away from your ears. Now you can immediately put your hands on the seat of the chair if you're feeling this, that your legs aren't going to give you the support that you need. And wherever you are, just pay attention to what is happening in your feet. So a lot of us have a tendency to sort of move our weight fully into the inner corners of our foot. Can you consciously send your knees a little bit back in space so that your weight is distributed evenly through the outer blade and the inner blade of your foot? And whenever you need to, you can come straight back up, take a breather, and come right back down whenever you need it. This is quite an intense pose for a lot of us. You're building strength in your leg muscles, in your quadriceps, your thighs, and you're getting into that piriformis muscle, which connects with your sciatic nerve. So maybe your hands are here for support, maybe they're hovering. You're just sitting down as low as you can and breathing for 1, 2, my legs are shaking, and 3, placing your hands down, slowly coming back up. We're going to do that one more time. So you're going to catch your breath over here. Just give your knees a little bit of a shake if that's what they need. And then getting back into that position, you're going to have a look down this time and make sure that your knees, as you go down, are tracking over your toes. So neutral pelvis, straight spine, long breath in, exhale, let's go down. So again, you can bring your hands to the chair for support. Just make sure that you're sitting as low as you possibly can. If you're feeling really brave, you can bring your arms out wide and turn your palms to face the ceiling. This puts your shoulders in more of a neutral position. I'm going to hang out here. And we're staying here for 1, 2, and 3. Coming back up, shaking out your legs. That was great, very brave. So we're still facing the seat of the chair. Now we're going to get into the backs of the legs, into the hamstrings. And you are going to simply just cross your right leg over your left. Now you're going to consciously bend your right leg. So that front leg has a bend in it. The back leg is staying as straight as possible. So in that position, you're going to start to come towards the chair. You're going to reach your hands out. Your hands are about shoulder width apart, and your wrists are directly underneath your shoulders. And you are going to have as straight a spine as possible. So the crown of your head is shooting forward while your tailbone is lengthening towards the back of the room. And now with that back leg straight, the front leg bent, you're going to start to just stick your hips out a bit. Stick your bum out behind you, but keeping the back as straight as possible. And now you're going to really press into both feet, so make sure that there's weight in all four corners of your feet, so that you start to get a really lovely stretch through that left leg. So moving your hips back in space, keeping your spine as long as you can. The crown of your head is moving forward like an arrow. You can bend your elbows if you have a tendency to hyperextend them. I certainly do. And just staying here and breathing, feeling that stretch through the hamstrings. It's a really nice supported stretch over here. And when you're ready, you're going to bend both legs. And you're just going to come up for a moment, maybe shaking those wrists out. And then you're going to go right back into the other side. So now you're going to cross the left leg over the right. And again, just taking those hands on the seat in front of you about shoulder width apart. Spreading the fingertips wide, so you're making sure you have a good base to lean onto. And then you're going to bend that front knee. And you're going to keep the back leg completely straight. And you're just going to move back, so as if you're moving your hips back in space, while your neck and the crown of your head extend forward. So you're getting a very relaxed stretch through the spine, and you're also getting a lovely stretch through the hamstrings in the back of the leg. And try to become aware of where you're distributing weight in your feet. So there is a tendency to roll the weight into one leg as opposed to the other. Can you make sure that your feet are taking the weight evenly? So you might need to roll into the balls of your feet in order to make sure that you have a really good leg position. And then staying here for one more breath, taking a deep inhale, maybe sitting back a little bit further, exhaling it all out. And slowly walking yourself back up, coming back to straight, shaking out your hands. So continuing that work in the legs, we're going to continue to face the seat of our chair, and we're going to bring our hands into that position you've become very familiar with. So your fingertips are spread wide, and your palms are on the seat of the chair in front of you. Your wrists are underneath your shoulders, and you are now going to bring your feet about hip width apart. You might need to walk them back a little bit further to get a really straight spine. And now you're just going to bring all your weight into your right foot, and you're going to bring your left knee out to the side. Now from here, you're going to just start to trace teeny tiny little circles with your knee in the air. So they can be really small, and pay attention to the sensations that this might be bringing about in your hips. Just use this as information and not judgment. And then as you become a little bit more comfortable with this movement, you can start to take those circles a little bit wider. They don't have to be massive circles, although it would be really nice to explore your range of motion. But if you know that you have some sensitive areas in your hips, just keep them small and enjoy the lubrication that this is bringing into that ball and socket joint in your hips. So one more round here, and then pause, just take it in the opposite direction. And I know my left hip is always a little bit weird when I take it in this direction. It starts to click, oh, right there. It starts to click at a certain angle. And I used to feel really anxious about it, but now I just sort of say, oh, hi, like a little friend. And taking one more circle in this direction and taking that foot down. Maybe taking the tops of your hands over, so flip your palms so that your fingers are pointing towards you and just press into them for a second, stretching out the tops of your hands. And then let's move back into that position and take it over to the right leg. So you're going to have a micro bend in that left leg, just to make sure you're not overextending at that knee joint. And then your fingertips are going to be spread wide. And actually, before you lift your right leg, your right foot off the floor, just make sure that your weight is evenly distributed in between both hands. So when you start to lift your right foot and bring your right knee alongside your body, there's a tendency to sort of move into all your weight into the right arm. Try and become a bit more balanced, so bring more weight into your left standing leg, remembering that bend, and then start to make those teeny tiny little circles. Not much to say here, just enjoying whatever range of motion that you have today, and not being scared to get a little bit wider and really go as wide as you possibly can. Just try it out, see if that works for you. And this side might feel completely different from the left side. That's great. And one more circle in this direction, pausing and then switching directions. You can start small, or you can go really big on this side and then start to narrow the circles a little bit. So just doing whatever feels good in your hips today. And then slowing it down and coming to a halt, bringing it back. You're going to stand up, you're going to shake those wrists out, those wrists that have taken a lot of pressure today. Maybe moving them in the opposite direction, just rolling them out, maybe picking and dropping your shoulders, get rid of any tension that's sort of built up in there. Great, let's move on. Okay, let's finally come down to a seated position in our chairs. And this is a primarily leg and hip heavy class, but we are going to bring a little bit of mobility into our shoulders. So we're going to start by doing a really lovely, cozy little move. We're just going to take our arms and we're going to wrap them around our bodies and just give ourselves a big hug. So wherever you are today is absolutely wonderful. You might not have the mobility right now to bring your fingertips behind you onto your shoulder blades. Just please know that that is completely fine. You're just going to focus on sitting up tall. So using your abdominal muscles to move your belly towards your spine. And wherever you are, wherever your hands are on your body, just give yourself a really tight squeeze. So you're stretching the back of your body over here, especially your upper spine, your thoracic spine. And you're just giving yourself a little bit of loving touch, which is so needed. So you might want to, now that you've been in this pose for a couple of breaths, you might find that you can actually walk your hands a little bit further behind you on your back. If that's available, just please go for it, do it. Squeeze as tight as you can. And take a really deep inhale into your upper back, feel it inflating. And then exhale, maybe see if you can walk your fingers even a little bit closer together on your back. Just breathing into your upper back, relaxing down. And then slowly can you unwind. Lovely. Oh, that's wonderful. So now we're going to go into the opposing motion. So we're going to start to bring a bit of lengthening through our collarbones. You're going to maybe move up a little bit, really towards the front of the chair. And you're going to have your feet you're going to have your feet underneath your ankles underneath your knees. And from here, and you're doing that because you want to create a little bit of space behind you so that you can interlace your fingers behind your back. So your fingers are interlaced, and you're going to start to walk your feet a little bit wider, so maybe as wide as your chair. And we're doing that because we are going to stretch our arms out behind us. So previously they were here. Now I want you to extend your hands back behind you as much as you can. And we are going to go into a forward fold, which is also a beautiful heart opener. Now this might be enough for you. Once you straighten your arms, you should feel a really good opening across your collarbones. You can stay here and really accentuate that by consciously moving your shoulders back in space and really lengthening your arms behind you. If you want to take this further, follow me. So we are going to start to hinge from the hips. Now, we're not going to allow our head to just sort of flop forward towards the ground. We're going to bring some tone into the back of our necks so that we're leading with our chest, and we're not going any lower to the ground towards the ground than our hips. And now, when you're at that sort of edge, you can start to lift your hands behind you a little bit further towards the ceiling. So this can feel really intense in the shoulders. I know I'm really feeling it here. So I'm actually going to back off a little bit and just play with that opening in the shoulders with a sort of rocking motion. So I'm matching this with my inhales and my exhales, taking my arms up and then bringing them back down. And I'm consciously moving my shoulders away from my earlobes to remove any tension in the neck. Whew. One more this way. And bringing it back up. Wherever you are, just start to slowly bend your elbows slightly and then loosen the grip in your hands and release it down. Maybe just give your shoulders a little bit of a wiggle. That's quite an intense opening. So we are going to round out the class with a really beautiful stretch for the outer hip. You're going to come seated at the front of your chair. You're going to make sure that your ankles are stacking underneath your knees and your feet are parallel. And just make sure that all four corners of your feet are pressing into the ground, so you're not rolling into any side of the foot. So from here, you're going to start to take your right leg off the ground, and you're going to cross that right ankle over your left thigh. Now, just making sure that your feet are flexed, so you're pointing your toes back towards your leg. This is going to protect your knee. And you might start to feel a stretch through that right hip already over here. That's wonderful. You can stay here, just gripping the sides of the chair, sitting tall, bringing your shoulders away from your ears, and breathing. If you want to lower the stretch, you can start to hinge forward towards your legs, leading with your chest. So your back body stays completely straight. You're not letting your head sort of drop forward. You're keeping a tone in the back of the neck, making sure that that foot is kept flexed. And you're just going to stretch forward, keeping a tone in the belly muscles to help you stay upright. You can play with your balance a little bit if you want to, you big show off. Or you can stay just hanging onto the chair, that's completely fine. And if you want to get really fancy, you can see about gripping the knee and the foot that's crossed, and maybe sort of moving the hip into an outer extension and then an inner extension. And just kind of playing, seeing what's happening in that joint, in the hip joint. That makes the pose slightly different. It's kind of less of a stretch at this point and more of like a flexibility exercise or like a joint lubrication exercise, if that's what you want to call it. So if you prefer the stretch, just go back into it, keeping your spine straight, keeping that foot flexed, staying here for one more breath, taking a big inhale, and then exhaling it out. You're going to gently guide that foot back down. You might want to pedal your feet a little bit, just kind of shaking your body out. That can be quite an intense stretch. And then let's take it over to the left side. So bringing all your weight into your right leg, you're going to cross the left ankle over the right thigh. You're going to flex that left foot. And you're going to, without forcing your knee down, you're just going to imagine that your knee is really, really heavy, your left knee, and it's just kind of dropping towards the floor. So it's really giving into gravity. And you can start to grip both sides of the chair. Now, wherever you are, if you want to stay upright, if you want to start to go forward, please do that. But wherever you choose to be, just start to bring some awareness into your hips. Start to look at where you're sending your weight. So there is a tendency to sort of fall over into the side that is that's crossed. So in this case, there might be a tendency to bring all your weight into your left side. Please resist that and try to bring your weight back into that leg that's still on the floor, so that the weight is evenly distributed through your sitting bones. And just keeping that foot flexed, keeping your spine as straight as you can, maybe bending forward a little bit more. If you took that flexibility exercise on the other side, you might just want to grab your foot and your knee, just cradling it very, very tenderly in your arms. Looking at that inner rotation, that outer rotation in the hip. And then setting it back down, gently going back into that stretch for a breath, taking an inhale, growing the crown of your head really long, and then exhaling it out through the mouth. And then slowly coming back up, if you weren't there already, and then just releasing your feet down, maybe just pedaling them a bit, maybe lifting your shoulders towards your ear and then just dropping them down, taking one more inhale up, exhale it down, resting your palms on your thighs, sitting up tall, maybe closing your eyes. Start to become aware of your inhales and your exhales. Feel how your body is right now as opposed to how it was when you started the class. Feel if there's any looseness, any difference in your mood. And taking that energy that you've created in your practice today and seeing if you can direct some of it to somebody or something that needs it. So bring that person or object to mind and take the energy coursing through your body and send some of those good vibrations their way. And now bringing your hands to your heart center, keeping your eyes closed, bowing your head to the highest part within you. thanking yourself for your practice today. And then releasing your hands down and opening your eyes. Thank you so much for practicing today. That was quite active and you're amazing for sticking through it. Please let me know if this helped or if you have any requests of your own. You can leave a comment below the video. And it was lovely having you, and I will see you next time.